Chase, hello and happy Wednesday. It is great to see you. Let me fix our screen. There we go.
Please do. Yeah, there
we go. And we're not talking about the Xbox right now, but
God,
walk me
God,
through how your week's been. I did not see you on Monday because I had just a long fucking day.
That's fine. You're just trying to keep two fights in two tight spaces away from me. I get
well,
it.
you know,
a game
you don't like
that
new games.
A game that I both own and could play at any time, and yet
fair.
have not. But yes, Bobby's the one keeping me from seeing it.
It is me.
It's we talked off pod. My week's been very weird for non-video game reasons, but the video game part's been going well. I'm still playing through some stuff. I'm excited for the rest of the year after the key 3 stuff. I've got my list of, hey, here's when all the stuff comes out. I'm still riding the high of Muramasa Revenant Blades or Revenant whatever it's called.
Is that September or is that next year?
That's I gotta look at my note now. I don't know. Can't remember. It's sooner rather than later, I think. But
okay.
Man, that's the thing I'm probably most excited about is a game that I have already played.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm looking forward to Ocarina of Time. My favorite game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and I'm going to be playing Star Fox tomorrow, so I'm nobody to talk to about that.
And I'm also excited for Dynasty Warriors 3 Remastered. So,
what is dead may never die.
It's a weird time these days.
But we're going to be talking a lot about old games that we can play. True. Because we're at a deep dive, Chase, and tonight's deep dive is going to be covering primarily the AYN Thor, a device that you and I have both become pretty smitten with. But we're probably going to gesture a bit more broadly or color outside the lines and talk more about the industry and nostalgia, our take on these things today versus yesterday, what's going on today versus tomorrow with this fucked up industry and the global economy. So it's going to be a fun-packed conversation about the state of things and where we're at. But before we get into it, I want to talk about a game that I was okay to play on the Thor, but not the best way to play it. And that is the Adventures of Elliot. There are other ways to play that game right now on the Thor that I am not here to tell you how to do, but playing the PC port through the version that I was left a little bit to be desired. So I have played this on my ROG Ally, but I've been playing this primarily on the big screen monitor in front of me. You played the demo. I played the demo. We've talked about it. I finished the prologue before the actual release of the game. And I have now seen 3 different time periods. And I think this game it's been like super high at times for me. And then it's been pretty dull and middling. And I'm having a hard time finding the highs again after that first little offering, because the further I've gone into it, and I think I'm in a weird in between because the game's built on exploring a lot of different weapons, not because they break and fall apart, but because you can build on those and add magicka to those, or magicite. Yeah, magicite, which is kind of like materia, but it gives you some really cool abilities and you can kind of kit them out on how you want to play it. But I'm finding that like it's not really progressing, and the questing in it is more or less repetitive fetch quest. Like go here, do this thing, and come back. The story kind of sucks. It's not the best narrative. And I know I am not the target audience traditionally for this style of acting and writing, because it is very anime sounding in the way that people are talking and delivering the lines. But the barking, even turning that down in the settings, has left a lot to be desired on my end, because it's constant nonsensical chatter from your little fairy friend. Like, it is the most barky ass fucking character I've played in a very long time.
The guy who loves Legend of Zelda to death.
Listen,
like, the fairy's really annoying to me.
Because the fairy is a lot like Paimei.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's not her name, right?
Or is it Paimon's the devil, isn't it? It's not. Paimon. No, Paimon's the devil from Hereditary, I'm pretty sure.
I think Paimon is the Genshin Impact little fairy girl. Yeah, Paimon.
Okay. Maybe I'm getting it. It's the devil. Who knows? But anyway, this character sounds an awful lot like that. And I think the game looks great. I think the game feels really good. And like, I like this game, but it had such a high point at some, like, I was really like, holy shit. Like, this is like a Zelda like in this style game from Square Enix. Like, this is fucking cool. And I even felt near the end of that prologue, I was like, all right, I've like been playing this for 5 hours, something like that. And everything kind of looks the same. And they do this cardinal sin for me, which is if you're going to do time skips or go back and forth, like, don't just change the color of the grass of where we're going and call it like the future. And don't change the color of the sky to call this the past. Like, it feels like I'm not going to 3 different maps or worlds. I'm just going to a different variation of the one main map for the game. That's nitpicky, I know, but it just feels.
I don't think it is. I think when you're a game that is hanging your hat on, we have 3 different time periods, and the idea is that you're going between the 3 periods to affect different points of time. They should feel significantly different, and you know, something like Chrono Trigger feels very different. Like that is, that's kind of like the easy one to point to, and also, you know, a Square Enix game like this one is. So it makes for an easy point of comparison. That is a game where the past feels very different from the present, which feels very different from the future. And there's also a handful of other time periods in between those things, and they all feel very distinct. And so to have Elliot come back and go, well, you know, it's kind of the same area, but it's, you know, just a little before. So now there might be some magic, or maybe there's some technology, but when the environments are just kind of some colors, that's a little annoying. I do want to mention, so like you said, I played the demo. I think the demo probably gives you the best impression of this game that it could. I haven't played the prologue, only the demo, but the demo doesn't have a whole lot of story, but it just kind of it gets the detail, or gets like the broad strokes out of the way early, and then it kicks you out to start doing stuff. And I think the doing stuff is probably the best part of the game when you're just learning about some of these attacks and how these weapons work. And it very quickly gets you into an optional dungeon and then the real dungeon. And so it's a lot of action that's happening. And I think those are all really good parts of the game. Like you mentioned, this is a game that feels pretty good, and it's a game that looks pretty good. And those things work out in the prologue, or in the demo. The demo didn't have any of the time travel shit in it. So like that is where it seems like that game might be falling short a little bit for you. Like that was something that I never even got to experience playing the part that I played. So it is sad and a little disappointing that doesn't seem to be living up to it. But also we're living in an era where Square Enix has kind of lost the plot a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you, like, I'm playing another game this year that is also a throwback because it's a reimagining of that, was Dragon Quest. And they also deal with time travel. And there's interesting things there that, like, you might go back and see a grave of somebody that you were like doing quest with, and you might have to deal with like the reconciliation of this person's gone now, and I was there when it happened in the past, so I know how this is. And like there's cool consequential stuff there, and you're making like real change because there's some lore elements to it. Maybe I'm early in this game. I think this is a relatively decent sized video game. I haven't looked at the full time to beat, but I'm getting some cool mechanical stuff. Like the fairy actually gets abilities, and I have one now where I can kind of teleport to it, and that's fun. Like there's some cool shit that I can do with some of these weapons that I've gotten that I did not expect. That I am having some fun tinkering, and I think if I can get that to accelerate more, and if I know like, hey, I'm going to get some really cool shit. Like again, Zelda, if I go to the dungeon, you're usually going to get an item that you need to master to get out of the dungeon. That was cool. And then like that's with you and you can use it as you want to. I was kind of hoping for some of that stuff. Like give me something that I would like make this dungeon worth my time is what I'm getting at. And I haven't necessarily felt that. Like we talked about Skyrim's dungeons not that long ago. Like even give me something to that degree. Like I was always going to get something of value from completing this and doing it. And if this is the most interesting part of the game, like make it interesting, make it compelling. So I'm very torn because I've rode some different waves on this one. I will also, I don't typically like to get into this realm of argument when it comes to things I like or dislike from a cost to value standpoint. But I am going to talk about it with this one because this is a $70 video game. And I do have some issue with that because it doesn't present itself as a $70 game to me. And I know that sounds weird. Like this to me feels like a $40 to $50 video game. And I don't know how to go further into that. And that's not necessarily a slight because there's an expectation, I think, that comes with some of these price points. And certainly content. I've played really, really short, very expensive games, and I've played very, very long, cheap games. So like it's not something that really moves the needle too much for me when it comes to being a consumer and a decision maker on it. But I do think it would maybe temper expectations on this thing for people going into it at that price point. And I would just say for anybody listening, if there's a sale, I think this is 100% worth picking up. I don't know, maybe I'm an outlier and maybe you'll find something here for it at $70, but that's a steep price to get into for this one.
Well, video games are very expensive these days, just generally, which it kind of ties into what we'll be talking about later in the show. But that is an interesting argument. I haven't heard that about Elliot before. I mean, it's not this isn't a short game. This is
I'm gonna look it up.
Big heavy RPG from Square, action RPG, but it's still an RPG. I feel like there's a lot of hours of content in there. So is it more of just like from a production value stuff? I know you're not happy with the voice acting or like what?
Yeah, I think that like the recycling of the worlds, like they don't feel like you're getting, like I expect the full fucking palette at 70. Like that's art, that is performance, that is acting, all of it. In here, it just feels like there was some corners cut, especially as you're time traveling. Like that's like, all right, I understand if you were under a constraint. If this was like a smaller, like B tier, C tier even game from a smaller studio, I would be a bit more forgiving, I think. But I can't remember exactly how much it cost. I don't think Clair Obscur was a full price game. I think it was like in that $50, $60 range at the time, maybe a little bit lower. And that thing was massive. That felt more like that true open world piece on it. So I don't know, man. Like this, the performances do feel a little slight. I think that the worlds being recycled to the degree that they are also feels a little slight at $70. But I just think it's a very repetitive game so far. And I don't think there's a lot of interesting things. There's way more. If you're looking for just a cool action adventure story, there are so many good ones of those out there to get right now for far less than what this is asking. And I think that's where I'm getting hung up on it, is because it's not doing a whole lot to outshine things that have been in that space doing way more cool shit for less money. Especially like if you are looking at indies, like I'll give you 10, like it's so that's like, this is one of my, I'm also very critical. This is arguably my favorite genre of game. Like,
yeah,
I would go and say like, look at fucking Tunic. Like
sure,
if you want
Tunic,
this experience,
or even something like a game I didn't love all that much, but it feels like it's in this space and people did enjoy it quite a bit. It was like Crosscode. I feel
absolutely
like that's in the same space too.
There's another one of those that just came out too. Like, and I would say like, go play Echoes of Wisdom. Go fucking play Cadence of Hyrule. Like, go play Link's Awakening if you haven't done that. Or fucking play Dusk. Go back and play Twilight Princess on your Android. Because like you can do that now. There's a lot of other things. Or wait for fucking Ocarina this year and hope that does it for you.
I think it goes back to just Square being in a weird place, that they need things to be hits, and so they're trying to push things as hits even when they might not be. You've got, they're so focused on Kingdom Hearts and finishing the Final Fantasy VII trilogy, which, man, I think 7, what is it, Revelation? I think that looks. It's going to play fine, but I think it's really boring what they've done from a story perspective on that. Dragon Quest VII came out and was good and well received, but we also know that the next Dragon Quest has been like starting from scratch at some point.
Yeah.
So like just everything over at Square Enix feels like it is a little bit on fire, and we're just trying to figure out what the hell to do there. So I mean, I thought, at least again from the demo that I played of Adventures of Elliot, I thought there was something kind of cool there, but I think I was getting the best impression that game could possibly give. So to see that, digging a little deeper off the surface, that maybe there are some pitfalls there. A little disappointing, but at the same time, I'm excited not to have to play a video game this year. There's a lot of other things that I would like to play.
I mean, you might fall for it, and I don't dislike it. I think I'm a little bit more let down. Like this is a prime candidate for like, I wish I liked it more.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to play an HD 2D game this year, it's sad, but there's a different Square Enix game that I'm going to be playing.
Is that the Final Fantasy one?
Yeah, but even that game's a little fucked up because that's
the mobile one, right?
We took the gacha game and we took all the gacha shit out of it, and we also like overhauled the video game from what I'm hearing, but it still is
looks
all
cool.
Based on the gacha game shit. It does look cool.
It looks cool, and it might suck.
End up being good.
Yeah, it could be great.
It is weird. I did see a preview on that sounded like, hey, if you just are worried that this is the gacha game, it's not. It's like a brand new game, but it just has all the stuff from the gacha, like has all the characters and story stuff from it. And then I heard somebody else say, if you're gonna make a brand new game, why give it all that baggage?
That's true.
It being the gacha shit. I'm like, yeah, that's weird. Such a good point. Why?
Ugh.
It's just gonna leave a bad taste in people's mouth to go like, oh, it's the new Final Fantasy game, but it's not new, and it's the gacha one. It's baffling decisions being made over there.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Well, you're playing a ROM hack still, correct?
Yeah, I'm still chipping away at Fire Emblem Life of Saros. I think I've got 3 chapters to go, and I've been having a lot more fun with it. As I've said, the more skills and characters that I've been building up, the easier it's been. There's still some really tough parts, but I think there's been some interesting parts in there, especially from a story perspective. I think the story stuff that's happening in there is really cool. I know I mentioned it beforehand, but to see a Fire Emblem story where the main character is not a good person is cool. Like your main character, who ends up being Rhea from Three Houses, is manipulative and vengeful and doing things for the wrong reasons and using people. And your kind of secondary lord, who is like a ancestor of Edelgard, is like having the wool pulled over his eyes, but is still like trying to do his best. So it's a really interesting juxtaposition of seeing these two characters kind of play off each other and seeing how my main character is justifying her actions and by just lying. Like all she's
by
doing
being
is
a
lying.
shitbag.
Yeah, she's like, oh no, I didn't turn into me. I didn't turn into it. I'm not a dragon. Like, no, definitely not. But the mother out there, which is Sothis, like the mother out there, she's like channeling through me, and so that's what's happening. I'm not a dragon though. And now I just got to the chapter where one guy like takes the Lord guy over to the side and goes, hey man, she's like a dragon.
Yeah, don't fucking do that.
Yeah, the guy who ends up being Seteth in Three Houses, the guy with green hair on the dragon. Yeah. He takes the Lord over to the side. It's like, yeah,
fuck, we're getting a new one of those this year too.
We are.
God damn.
Very soon. But yeah, he's like, hey, she's a dragon, so am I. Like, keep it to yourself. But like, she's been lying to you, buddy, and I can't let you.
Yeah, we'll eat you.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. I'm having a really good time with that.
Hell yeah, man. And I'm assuming you're having a really good time with that because of the Thor.
Yeah, I think the Thor has mostly helped. I mean, this is certainly a game, because this is a GBA ROM hack. This is something I could have played on my Analog Pocket, and I think there are some pros and cons of where I would have wanted to play that.
Sure.
I've been having a pretty good time with it on the Thor, and the Thor's a pretty solid device.
Yeah, man. I was pulling up my note. I've had mine since March 7th, and we're recording this on June 24th. I have played this thing every day. I've used my Thor every day since I got it. And there's been a few times that I've grabbed my ROG Ally only because I have it. And like I was wanting to play what was I wanting to play? Elliot. Sorry. I was just talking about that. I wanted to play Elliot on that and see what it was like in handheld. But if I didn't have that device, I don't think I would miss it like I once thought I would. And that's because I have found a way to make this device fit my daily lifestyle in a way that feels what you mentioned earlier, like an everything device. And it's cool to have that. Like what I need when I'm not at my main place, I feel like I could have my Thor and I could be completely set and not feel like I was lacking anything on it. So what kind of led me to this though was the dual screen shit I thought always looked cool. But when I saw that coming out, I was like, fuck, now you can really have true emulation. Like these things are basically up to current consoles now and what they can emulate. But this can have the form factor to play a whole bunch of games that I just never really got a chance to because I only got the 2DS XL to play Pokemon. And I played a few other things on there, and I probably should have played way more, and I'm learning that now. But anyway, I'm rambling. I like this thing a whole lot.
Yeah.
And
so we wanted to have an episode where we talk about this is our deep dive. We wanted to kind of deep dive on the Thor and what our experience is at this point, having had these devices for a couple months. But we also wanted to talk about just this greater shift into this excitement around emulation devices like the Thor, and how that has kind of been caused by the current industry that we're in and the way
100%.
gaming has gone these days, but also just from how these devices have gotten better to the point that we want to be playing on these things because these kinds of devices or these ideas of these kinds of devices have been around for a really long time, but they've always had some pretty big drawbacks, and a lot of those drawbacks are pretty well addressed these days in some of these new devices that we have.
There's just a very vibrant community too of people that are building and creating and modding and entering into an era of like, I think that you've been talking about this a little bit more than I have, at least on the show, but there's just a mod scene happening on a generation now that we haven't really seen from our perspective. Like the nostalgia for these things, while I think we feel that, but there's people who grew up with these things as like their childhood devices. And we've seen this shift in software too. Like what used to be pixel art, which I still think is fucking beautiful, is now becoming more like PS1 era looking kind of, polygonal style characters and more boxy. It's just a big shift happening. And I've wrestled with that because I'm getting older and that's not how I remember video games, but I think this device is also kind of spawned from that nostalgia that a lot of people are entering into, where you and I have other devices that look more like a Game Boy that kind of pull on that. We've got the Lego Game Boys behind us, and that was our nostalgia. And now we're seeing people kind of yearn for this form factor also that the Thor brings.
Well, let's set the stage a little bit. We've been talking about this for weeks, months, years, because it's just been a story that's been out there. But the video game industry is in trouble. Like we can all kind of see that. We've very recently we've seen price increases due to things like tariffs, but even before that, we've been seeing things get more expensive. We've been seeing development times balloon and tons of people being put on games. We're going to get GTA 6 at some point this year, and that game has been in development for fucking ever.
Yeah.
And we've seen plenty of layoffs. Layoffs seem to only be getting bigger and more prevalent every year.
AI introduced in the games.
AI for sure. I think there's been some stagnation a little bit in the AAA space of, a lot of those first party Sony games all kind of feel the same. They're all these big cinematic single player things.
Sad dads.
sad dad games. Absolutely. We had plenty of those. We've got so many games that are kind of just doing the same things these days with very little differentiation to them. So I think there is just not a ton of excitement around the video game industry. And also, the next generation of kids who would be playing video games are playing very select video games on very select devices. You know, they're playing Fortnite, they're playing Roblox, they're playing things on their phone. They're not necessarily going to go out and grab a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or even a Switch in some cases. The Switch has gotten, is better for that. I think it's been more accessible to those people, partially because of the price point, but also because Nintendo's still Nintendo. But we've seen a shift in what people care about when they care about video games these days. So we're at a time where there's not a whole lot of excitement about new video games. And I think that's why, at least one of the factors of why we've kind of gotten into this kind of golden age of emulation with these more high quality devices like the Thor that we both have. The Retroid lineup of handhelds has gotten a lot better.
The Odins, also from AYN, like that's kind of the go-to. That's the one that looks like a PSP.
Mm-hmm. Even like the Steam Deck and the Ally are both devices that people are hacking and jailbreaking to be able to emulate older video games and seeing some of that emulation. You mentioned the Analogue Pocket, which we both have, and that is a bit of a different kind of device. The Analogue was saying, hey, here's a thing that can play your old video games, like your old actual physical video games. But then, they have the FPGA stuff in there and allow for people to kind of do what they will with them, which has led to those devices also becoming very popular emulation, or not emulation because it is FPGA, but they are becoming popular devices for playing old ROMs.
I'm honestly surprised Analogue hasn't made a DS or a 3DS.
I mean, it's got to be coming, right? That is
knowing how popular that's happening and them blending, being able to use your actual carts on this thing, plus potentially what we're talking about right now, like that could be pretty wild.
But that is also a pretty slow moving company when it comes to like they want to make very specific high quality products. The Pocket was their first handheld, so they went in that direction.
And that made sense.
I have to imagine that the next thing they make from a handheld perspective will be dual screen somehow and be able to play some of those things.
And as everything around us burns down and becomes more expensive, I do think that the other thing that we can't undersell here is in the connectivity that we find ourselves. There has been something really cool, and I recognize that like the Thor compared to the Pocket does have Wi-Fi and it can be online, and I could treat this kind of like a phone if I wanted to. But I treat this as a very single purpose. Like this is my gaming device. Like I'm taking this, like there's things on here that I've already like curated and built. It's in this front end. Like this is set up. I could get stuff on the fly if I want, but there is something about this that feels very sacred in that like I'm playing my Thor. Like I'm doing things that are existing on this little device. And I think for people right now, especially the generation that comes after you and I, Chase, they want that single use device again. They don't want the always online. And I do commend that generation for pioneering that spirit and getting some stuff that feels a bit more like disconnect, enjoy what you're doing. You don't have to have the Internet of Things on everything out there. So that's been cool to see too.
Yeah, but also the Thor
is not the right one for this. Like,
well, I mean, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But I've definitely seen people in our generation, and I think you've even mentioned it to me specifically. Of hey, you can be playing something on the top screen and then also have a browser open on the bottom screen. And I mean, yeah, that's true. But also that becomes not a single-use device at that point. And there is something I usually just turn, well, when I'm playing Life of Saros and GBA ROM hacks and things like that, I just turn the bottom screen off. I was like, I want this to be a single-use video game machine. But I've certainly seen people go, hey, I'm watching King of the Hill on the bottom screen as I play Super Mario Brothers on the top screen. and so they like this device kind of works for those people too. And it's wild that we have devices that can do these kinds of things these days, because that does go back to my point of we've had these kinds of devices for a long time, or we've had the idea of these kinds of all-in-one devices at one point. You can go back to something like those, 52-in-1 video games. Did you ever have like one of those of like, here's an NES cartridge, and it has like 20 different card games on it, but then also a couple of other very simple games. But the idea of like, hey, you can play a bunch of video games on this one cartridge.
You get it all.
Cool. And then you had, the things that could connect to your TV, like the little arcade stick that would just plug in, and now you could play all the different Namco games or whatever. We've had browser emulation sites that would say, hey, we have every NES game, and you can struggle to play them with a mouse and keyboard if you want. And at one point that was awesome. Like, hey man, I'm playing Tetris in class. Isn't that wild? It sucks, but it's Tetris, and I kind of remember it. And I even think back to some of the other devices that I've purchased. I had a Retron 5 a long time ago, which was at the time pretty darn cutting edge, that this thing could play so many different old cartridges. It had an NES slot, a Super Nintendo slot, a Genesis slot, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. It can play all these things, and that was a really cool idea, that you could also then bring that to the big screen, have an easy way of playing those older games on newer televisions. But also, as a person who owns a Retron 5 or owned a Retron 5, it's somewhere around here, I don't know where the fuck it is. That thing sucked. That thing was a piece of garbage that I barely read my cartridges at all. The controller it came with was terrible. Yes, you could plug other controllers into it and use it, but man, I had a terrible time with my Retron 5. It was a piece of garbage.
So I really kind of like dipped my toe in on the Pocket. And that is, I didn't go down the rabbit hole like I have with the Thor, because you all kind of just set it up. And I was treating this more as like physical media, and then like a handful of things like ROM hacks or shit that I could check out on it.
Sure.
But I do think that from a build, I was pretty spoiled with that. Like, you got me one, you and Johnny did, and I align a lot, because the little thumbstick on that felt real like rough, and I got big hands. I just never could make that.
You're talking about the Retroid Pocket?
Yeah. That one you got me. I was so thrilled, because I had I was going to build like one of the retro pies, and I was like, I want to build a little thing. And I have them up here, the mini consoles that have the emulations for Super Nintendo and Nintendo.
Sure.
Like, I was into that shit, but the build quality for the Pocket really spoiled me, because I was like, this is a premium device that can do some really cool shit, and there's a benefit to using it. And I got very excited about it. And then I just didn't use it as much, because I was playing more PC games and doing that. But I don't know, man.
We definitely went from having these devices that could function like that, those early Android devices, like the Retroid Pocket, and there's a new Retroid Pocket coming out, and those
any
devices
day, right?
have become, they keep teasing specs on it. They haven't given a price, but they're showing parts of it. But yeah, there was something about those things in the early days, whether it was the Raspberry Pi devices that I also tried to have a Raspberry Pi that worked like that, and it just didn't feel right. And even the Retroid Pocket that I had that was getting there, like you could tell that it was getting there, and that's why we ended up buying you one, thinking like, hey, this is actually getting kind of close. But those were those early Android based ones that could play a ton of different consoles, single screen device with thumbsticks, and they just didn't feel good. The plastic wasn't right. The screen wasn't very good. The battery life wasn't great. Like, there were all sorts of things like, this just isn't quite there. We're using cheaper components. We're using cheaper plastics. And, part of that was because that's what was available at the time, or that's the stuff that was affordable to make those devices. But you're right. We've started to move in, and I think Analogue is one of the pioneers of this, of whether you're making a device for emulation or whether you're just making some kind of third-party device, we can make better ones. We can use better materials that people will pay a little bit more to get a higher quality product like that. And we've seen that with all of Analog stuff, but specifically, people have been pretty excited about the Pocket, and I think that quality has now bled into things like AYN and the Thor and the Odin that they've made, and it's pushed the Retroid Pocket to be higher quality things as well. Like I have the specs of this new one. This new Retroid Pocket has a 4x3 OLED screen, 120 hertz, 1280 by 960. Like those are the things that you'd want and almost expect out of these devices now. But they're an OLED screen was not something that was even heard of for a device like this, a decade ago. That would
it's
be
a
something
literal
that
game changer, though.
Yeah, it's something that you get on your Vita,
Yeah.
and something that you get on like the brand new Switch or something, but not something you expect for one of these little consoles that's most of the components were made in China and were produced to be very cheap. But now they're produced to be higher quality things. And
I mean, the Odin Thor, or I'm sorry, the Odin 3 is like that's got 24 gigabytes of RAM in it right now. Like it's got up to a terabyte internal. Like that is going toe to toe as an Android device with the ROG Allies, with the Steam Decks. Like it's really coming in there, and quite frankly, if you're looking for pure emulation, it's going to do a better job than some of these other devices for a lot easier setup. So, but the problem that comes with this, Chase, is that we're in a really tumultuous market right now of price gouging, as you called out earlier. And we've seen that for our devices. Like I think you got in the last one before they did a degraded memory speed on our,
yes.
And then they also increased the price.
I got in after a price hike, but not after the big price hike, which there's been another price hike since. And like you said, there has been a degradation of the materials that are in there to try to keep the prices down for some of these devices.
So right now, I think the jump went from $429 to $549. So they've put $120 increase on these.
And that's for like the nicest one, right?
Yeah. So there's 4 models, but there's 2 versions of the high-end model. So there's the Lite, which is 8 gigs of memory and 128 gig hard drive for $249. That's the entry point. That's probably the one that a lot of people get. It's a very obtainable price for this experience. But then they go up to the base, which has a better processor, and it's still 8 and 128. It's $319. Then you have the Pro, which that's you, right? Pro?
I think I got the Pro. I feel like I got the Pro for something like $250 when I first bought it. So these prices definitely have gone up.
Yeah, the Pro now is 12 gigs of memory, a 256 hard drive, and it sets you back $399. And they entered this next one. So the next step is a Max, and that used to be a 16 gig with a 1 terabyte. That's the one that I went for. But they've introduced a Max, so 16 gigs of RAM, but 512 hard drive. And then I have a 2 terabyte SD card in mine. So I've got 1 terabyte internal, and my internal storage is my PC games. So I have that, and plus like any scraped media or Android apps. And then my my SD card is every emulated ROM game. And then I keep them all tidy that way.
And even those have shot way up in price too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of more tariff stuff, because of AI stuff and memory. Everybody wants more of that shit, and it's made everything just really expensive, including micro SD cards, which is like that shouldn't. Those
Did you see
the cheap right now? But they're very much not.
The Sony branded expandable storage for the PS5.
I don't think so.
They like it's made by a third party, but it's like got Sony's branding all over it. They have an 8 terabyte hard drive to put into the PS5, And I think it's like $3,300 for that.
That's so fucking wild.
And you can buy a PS5 for, you could just buy more PS5s and have them have your games on it. You know, like,
yeah,
it's so fucking fucked. And I think that's what for me, man, I can't remember what episode it was, but we really kind of like blew the lid off of like game preservation. And that really, like, it was upsetting me because I have just kind of gotten rid of my hardware growing up. And I'm digital only across the board. And that was kind of the catalyst for me on pulling the trigger. Because I had gone to this website. I had sent this to you. I'm like, these things look fucking cool. I don't need it because I've got my Pocket. And tariffs were ringing up. We were talking about preservation. The industry was being there. I was just like, you know what? Like, this is only going to become harder to get and more expensive to get. If you're going to do it, fucking do it, because you're going to be pissed in a month that you didn't do it. So just pull the trigger. And I pulled the trigger, and you influenced me. Like, I'll say that much.
Well, and you influenced me back. Like, I technically didn't have a real reason to need a Thor. I had enough different kinds of devices that all did little parts of what a Thor could do. You know, I had my Analog Pocket, which basically played everything up to, you know, like Sega Saturn, I guess. Like, it couldn't play those, but basically anything below that, it could handle just fine. So any like retro stuff, any Game Boy Advance stuff, which is usually
a lot of your ROM hacks.
All the ROM hacks that I wanted to play, like that stuff was very taken care of by the Pocket. I felt good about that. I had a couple of different ways of playing emulated DS games and 3DS games through a hacked 3DS. So I had ways of playing those dual screen games if and when I wanted to play them. I have some emulation stuff on my computer that I'm able to take advantage of and play, you know, PS2 level stuff and higher PlayStation 1 and PS2 and any of those things that go further than that. But there was something appealing about having a device that could very seamlessly go between the ROM hack stuff that I liked and having the dual screen games that I enjoyed and being able to play higher res games like PS2 stuff, GameCube, and things like that. And to just have an all-in-one device that was very convenient for me to take on the go whenever I needed it. And so that's what really ended up selling me on it. And it is, you know, I'm still mostly just playing the GBA ROM hacks that I was playing before anyway. But there is something nice that feels, you know, it's weird to say future proof because it's all old shit. But I feel like I'm future proofed in a way that I am ready to play a bunch of old games when the new games dry up, which has to happen at some point. We know there's more games coming out than ever before, but we also, as we said at the top, the industry is certainly in trouble. We're seeing some kind of crash that's going to happen at some point, whether it's just a video game one or more likely something that is much more global and affects way more than fucking video games. But we're getting to the point where it's unsustainable. And to have something like this in my back pocket, knowing, well, okay, at least I have a thing that will play fucking video games for the next, you know, 12,
it's not, you're not going to have a game taken off of it because it's, you know, we don't have it any longer. It's no longer here. Like, or there was a weird licensing thing. So you're going to get a fucked up version of this thing. Like, there's something to be said about that. And I do feel very fortunate because I have a kick-ass device to do it. But what this did for me was it kind of just lit a fire, and I've really gone down some rabbit holes that I'm future-proofed in a way of like, I've got multiple devices that I can emulate off of. Like, I really, really love the Thor. Like, this is fucking great. But there's going to be other things, and there have been other things that I can use. So like, I've gotten myself into a position with curating a library of things that I find cool that I can move with me now without like some of the dependencies that I've had prior to like.
Right. You don't need to just keep having to buy PlayStation consoles because all your stuff's on PSN or keep buying Switches because all your stuff's on the eShop.
Correct.
Like you have just the stuff now, and
I've got it.
and you can put that stuff wherever you need to. It is very convenient. I mean, it's not just you who's fired up though, and I think that's also a very exciting thing to own one of these consoles right now, because there's a whole community out there that's very excited about it. More than they were for just these single screen devices. I think these dual screen devices, and the Thor isn't the only one that's out there. There are a couple out there that are doing this,
Yeah.
but you're seeing many more people coming into the scene, both as players, but more importantly as people who want to figure out how to continue to push the emulation to either make it better or to bring in more machines. I know right now we've talked about this. The Thor doesn't really, well, not just the Thor, but Android emulation in general doesn't really know how to do original Xbox games well yet.
Yeah.
It's getting there, but it's not there yet.
That's even on PC.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Xbox is weird.
But you are getting like a rising tide, bringing up all boats here of more people are excited and want to be able to play other consoles on their Thor. So they are working on making the emulation better across the board for everybody. And we are probably going to get to a point where some of these harder consoles that haven't been cracked yet, there's going to be enough renewed interest of people saying, hey, I do want to play Psychonauts on my Thor. How can I make that happen? Who can I help to make that a reality?
A cool thing on that note, like I helped you get some extra drivers downloaded. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the drivers people are building are geared to make the Switch run the best. Like that's just what people want to emulate. Like
sure.
I hate to say it, but that's what people are after. But this one guy has been taking those drivers and he's like, hey, I'm over here doing something really cool. He's like, if you want to have a really kick-ass PS3 experience, I want to help you with that. And so he's building a driver, and it's out. It just came out a few days ago, that increases immensely PS3 performance on this device. So if there was a PS3 game, if you want to check out Little Big Planet, you've got a better way to do that now. If you want to check out God of War or multitudes of God of War, you can. It's not perfect. It's a lot better. And to your point, there's people who are coming up that aren't there to just do Switch shit anymore. Like they want PS2 and PS3 stuff. They want, like the Xbox 360 just got an Android port. PS4, they just added PS4 emulation to Android.
Wild that the 360, PS4, and PS3 are doable, and the original Xbox still, for some reason, is so difficult.
It's weird.
Yeah, but that is just the eccentricities of some of these devices. The PS3 especially is an interesting one to me, because that was such, like, the whole deal with the PS3 was that it was so hard to develop for the architecture, the cell processor, and how difficult that is, and also why it's so difficult to get ports of games from the PS3. We are just finally about to get Metal Gear Solid 4 coming to another console finally, as part of the Master Collection 2 or whatever they're calling it for Metal Gear Solid. That is a game that has been locked on PlayStation 3 for a very long time. And, I'm not saying it's the best game in the world. I've actually never gotten to play it because I've never owned the game and a PS3 to do it. But it's an important game, it seems, with how much we glaze Hideo Kojima these days as an industry. Well, that's mostly just Jeff Keighley, but still, like to not have one of that guy's biggest video games available to play for other devices seems crazy to me. Well, so it's nice that we're getting more of those things available to more people.
The other thing that's kind of nuts is like there's a version of Linux that you can run on Android. And so now people are putting Linux on these things. They're installing SteamOS and basically making little Steam Decks that can run these games pretty damn well. And I'm using a couple of different versions like Game Native and Game Hub, which are just things you can download in the Play Store that link up to your Steam account. And we've talked about it on here, but like I've put probably 13 hours into Mina the Hollower, and I would say that 12 of the 13 were on my Thor. Like, and that's my PC game of that. And it runs flawlessly. And it looks great with that OLED and like the Game Boy Color aesthetic. Like, it's fucking awesome. So this has been like what I use the Steam Deck for in a lot of ways. Lightweight gaming on the go from a PC perspective. A lot of my indies are in that library and they just come right over. I got the Dave the Diver DLC ready to go and check that out on here. I think that there's a lot that's come a long way with Android. And to your point, you can do a lot of these consoles, and there's people who are building drivers, or they're giving you guides to follow, or they're giving you JSON files to, download and bring into it. There is this community like obsessed with like remastering games and bringing quality of life. Like you can get Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door, basically up and running like the remake on the Switch with texture packs and button configurations and quality of life improvements. That's really exciting because people are building shit that makes the game more playable by 2026 modern gaming standards. Or if you're more like Chase and you want that pure experience, like just fucking get the ROM and play it and enjoy it as it was. You can do both. And that's really fucking cool because Chase wants a very different thing from this device. I want a very specific thing from it. The core experience we both share and love, but that's the thing I dig about these is that as great as it is to pick up the Switch and run with it and just have that be so predictable and consistent, there is something cool because there's not another one of these out there that is exactly like mine. And I love that. I think that's really fucking cool because this has my shit on it, my art, my design, my configurations, and it's just a very personal device, which I think is great.
Yeah, I mean, it does go back to, it feels like a very Mac versus PC kind of conversation at one point of, yes, the Mac is easier, being a closed system. Like as long as you want to be part of this ecosystem and you're comfortable with the ecosystem that's there, it's a really nice experience that you kind of know what you're getting when you get it. It is very predictable in that way, but it's reliable as well.
Yeah.
And there is a certain allure to playing these more closed system style consoles. Like I still like playing video games on my Switch too, even though there's certainly ways of playing those games on the Thor, and I could do that and I could probably have a more customized experience. But there is something nice about just loading it up. Hey, I know it's going to work. I know I'm not going to have to update a driver or something to be able to play this thing, but I can just turn it on and go and be happy. And that's why I still play a lot of games on Switch. But there is also something nice about that more PC configuration. I can do things my own way. I can set things up the way I want. I can change all the button layouts for all the different consoles to be exactly the way I want them to be. Like that, there is something nice about that allows you to make the device your own and have a very customized experience. And they are, I think it's great that we're having these options available to us as players, especially when things are getting harder and harder to access. Nintendo has games that are out on Nintendo Switch Online and things like that you can grab some of these old games and play them, and that's nice. But there's so many games out there that we will never have access to again because of things like licensing deals, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Outside of expensive remakes that have come out, we're not just getting ports of those original games because the licensed music or getting Bob Burnquist's image is not going to happen. There's a ton of old sports games that we're never going to get back again because of likeness rights on you'd have to talk to the NBA Players Association. That's why we're not going to get something like NBA Street Volume 2 to just get a straight up port, because there's a ton of players that you'd have to go and relicense, and that's not worth it to be able to do for some of these for somebody even as big as EA to warrant making that happen. They would rather, it's cheaper for them to make a new NBA Street style game, which they did, and it's not exactly right, and it's still pissing me off that like it was right there and
it's
you
the
didn't
closest
do it.
You're ever going to get.
I know. But the second closest I can get is to just play NBA Street Volume 2 on my fucking Thor. I could just play that game again, and it's the game, and it works, and it's fine. So to have that to going into that preservation conversation that we're having, but also to that convenience conversation that we're having, it's nice to have a device like this that is that kind of safeguard for the future, that is that safety valve of knowing, well, at least I can play something on my Thor if I need to. And I do really value that. I do want to ask. I know we're running a little bit low on time. You asked the question of me earlier, and I don't feel like we really covered it. But we do have a couple of different devices now. You know, we both have
Mhm.
analog pockets. You've got your Ally. I've talked about like when I might play my Switch, but we both have the play dates,
Yeah.
and we have like different devices that can play some very similar types of games. The Playdate can be jailbroken to play Game Boy games at this point. The Analog Pocket we know has been has the FPGA stuff to be able to play lots of different consoles. When would you pick up one of those devices, any of those devices, over a Thor? Is there a reason? Is there an experience you might be looking for that's very specific that the Thor isn't able to do that one of these other devices will be?
Yeah. So the easy answer right now would be I'm looking at my Switch and I'm looking at my ROG Ally. If there was a heavier lift or a PC, like because I had the ROG Ally's Windows, so it's just running Steam. So like I
Sure.
can play any of my Steam games on that to varying degrees of success. So if there was like I could play Clear Obscure on that if I wanted to. So like I would grab that to do that. I could maybe play it on here. I haven't tested it, but if I needed like a true dependable, there's a PC game out I'm really into. I'm gonna take that with me. I have my Switch for Switch stuff. I have the PS Portal for PlayStation games to stream. I could also stream them to my Thor, which maybe I will.
So is the question there, or is the point there, brand new video games, like brand new super high quality video games, like the pushing the limits of what the consoles
Yeah.
can do right now? That's something you wouldn't play on a Thor. You'd play
I
that
mean, there's
on
some
an
games
Ally
though
or
that I
something.
could, but
Sure.
no, for the most part, I would play those. The other thing I would say,
Like Mean of the Hollower, brand new video game. You can and have played that on the
yeah,
Thor,
yeah,
but you know, there's a difference between Mean of the Hollower and God of War Laufey or something,
yeah,
right?
totally. And I think on my Pocket, if there was like a Game Boy or a Game Boy Color game, I could play that on this, and I could play it on my Thor, but and look great because of the OLED there, but it would feel more natural over there.
Yeah.
Like I could see myself, like if I was ever going to play, I don't know, Silver again, you know, like
Sure.
I probably would play it over there. Or if there was a ROM hack for one of those games, like maybe I would play it there versus the Thor, you know, like that's
there's a form factor to that where,
yeah,
you know, that it fills the screen better on the
yeah,
Pocket, because the
totally.
Pocket has a different ratio on its screen size that makes that a little bit more relevant.
Or if I really
totally
wanted
understand
like a purely non-distracted approach,
that. Sure.
I would put a handful of games on my Pocket and like take that with me to a fucking camping ground, you know, like I used to. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
have internet. I'd take that with me. It has a really good battery on it. Like that would be something I would do for like, I'm really unplugging, but I want to have, because gaming relaxes me. I'll bring a game to play or a book or something.
Yeah. I'll tell you, for me, I mean, I think most things right now feel like just the Thor is the best device to play most of
Yeah.
these things on. But there has been, at least, you know, as somebody who has my YouTube channel where I'm Chasing K Plays, where I'm playing through some stuff. I just finished the Pokemon TCG Generations game, and that was something I was playing through my Pocket that was going to my PC. I know the Thor can do that. I know I
Mhm.
can get some HDMI stuff that can pass through to get there, and I know it has Bluetooth capabilities where I'd be able to connect a controller to it as well. But there is something really nice about the Analog Pocket, that it has a dedicated dock
Yeah.
that is really useful to just be able to plug that in and be able to connect a controller to it very easily and have a very dedicated thing to make that work. I know that stuff is available for the Thor yet, and I just haven't really gone to do it. But the Thor doesn't have, an AYN
And I think
branded
they
dock.
have one for the Odin, but they don't
Okay.
have one for the Thor. So
Yeah.
I would love a dock. That is on my,
Sure.
like, I've emailed them, and I've also talked to the guy that made my grip on Etsy. I'm like, hey, will you just make me a fucking dock? Like, I'll rig it up,
Yeah.
but can you make it?
Yeah, but like, so that is still, my Pocket has been getting use recently because of just the ease of connecting it to a television, to a PC, being able to do that pass through kind of stuff. And the Thor right now for me has been a strictly handheld device. Even though I have at least hooked it up using like the Genki Shadowcast stuff to be able to, like, okay, yeah, it works. I could connect it to a television if I really needed to, but I just haven't.
It
gone
does
through
work
all
well
the
with that,
steps.
by the way. Like, it's literally just a USB-C dock is all you, like, the dock that you have for your Steam Deck will
Yeah.
work with this.
Yeah.
So you
I
could
mean,
also get a Google Cast, but you might have an input delay with that.
Sure, and there are also just some logistical things of, like, this is a dual screen device. It's like
Mhm.
it's not going to be so easy to play a DS game on my TV, in the same way that it hasn't been easy to play DS games and 3DS games on a PC. Yes, you can do it, but it's I wouldn't call it ideal. You've done that before, right? You did that with one of the Pokemon games, right? Where you tried to play a 3DS game on through a PC.
Yep, it did not work out great.
No, it's not fun. It's not fun to try to have a mouse controlled touch screen that you touch at one place, but then you also have the other screen, and the way you align the screen, like, some of that's just a pain in the ass. And so for a device like the Thor to come out there and make games like those easier to play, it is nice that you have that available to you. But yeah, there's still some reasons why I'd play one over the other one. But I've really been liking my Thor. I'm glad you talked me into it a little bit. At least
Yeah, I
made
mean,
it
you got
sound
to feel
exciting
it and
enough that
see
I
it.
wanted to get it. Yeah.
I think that was a big
So-
one for you. And I think also me being a couple months ahead of you has been a good test because you've got to see, like, is he still into it? Is he still using it? And happy to report, like, it goes everywhere in this house with me. It is my favorite thing. I've really enjoyed it. It's always great to talk about, and I think we'll continue. I'm going to talk about it Game of the Year time too. I think just as something I've cared about, but we'll talk more about some cool shit with it. You and I got to get together, and I got to help you get a few things updated, the front end stuff, and get you hooked up and make sure that's working. So,
yeah, I imagine, like we kind of alluded to, I imagine that these devices are only going to become more relevant to our podcast and our gaming habits. Over the next handful of years. Yes, there are video games out, and there's a lot of video games that we're still very excited about that are coming out in the year 2026, and we know that are coming out in 2027. But we also just have basically all of video game history that we can go back to and play on these devices.
100%.
Turns out they made some pretty cool video games over the years that we just never got.
I'm telling you, man. And, like, shout out to the indies that are out there, because there's some really fun indies to play on these things that, like, Mina feels like a handheld game, man. Like,
yeah, indies out there, ROM hacks out there, like that is kind of the other thing to me, is that yes, I do have access to all these old video games, but there is still this kind of, homebrew and indies and ROM hackers out there that are allowing, like, a fork of new video games to come out that are different from the eye-popping AAA video games that are out there. And it's just nice to have some people who are going, I can make a new video game with these limited resources, and it can still be really cool. And also, it's not going to cost you any fucking money. It's not going to cost you $70 like the Adventures of Elliot is. No. Do you want to play the Adventures of Elliot, or do you want to play Radiant Historia for free?
Or do you want to play the good version of Shining Pearl or Brilliant Diamond?
Sure,
because we can arrange that too.
That makes it really difficult to talk about a game like Elliot, because now you have to not only compare it to the other video games that are out there, but you have to compare it to basically every video game ever because those are available.
Is
to
it worth?
somebody.
Yeah, I mean, like there's gaps that would be like worth my time more so. But I love the new games, and I've got a multitude of ways to play them. But I also now know, like, hey, there's things that you can go back to and have a great time and probably connect with Chase on. So I appreciate just like any chance to talk about this thing. I know we were kind of all over the place, but it was nice just to like celebrate what's happening in the scene, what people are really into, like what we're enjoying. If you are curious about like configurations, if you want to see kind of like a deeper dive into one of these, like I'll figure out a way to hook it up, and maybe we'll record something sometime and I can teach Chase a few things along the way and make a little tutorial video on, I don't know, maybe we'll do something like that. Who the fuck knows? Like maybe we'll make a casual Monday stream more about just like, let's just like set up our Thors and talk to people while we're doing that. I think there's something cool about vibing out with that too. So we'll see. But if you want to follow along with our shenanigans and bullshit, you can do so by going to those sites there and following up with all of us. Chase, though, we mentioned we took Monday off. He's probably using that time, I'm assuming, to plan and build and edit and do all kinds of crazy shit because he's a busy guy, and you can follow along with all his stuff by listening to him here. What do you got up to now?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but there's a new episode of Chasey K Plays that is out right now. I'm still just a Bill, where I'm playing through the Pokemon trading card game Generations ROM hack.
Hell yeah.
It's a ROM hack of the Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy Color. I finished it. I didn't expect to finish it on the last recording, but I just kind of pushed through and went, oh yeah, okay, let's end the game. And you know what? Had a really good fucking time with that.
Hell yeah.
So kind of sad to see it go, but happy that we got a good series out of it. So all 9 episodes are up right now. You can watch the whole thing. And that was a lot of fun. I don't know what the next game I'm going to be playing on Chasey K Plays is. I think I might be taking a week, maybe even 2 off, knowing that we've got a holiday weekend coming up here as well pretty soon. So I don't know, but Chasey K Plays will be back at some point, and I will have something new. But I need to figure out what that new thing is, and I'll let you know. In the meantime, though, you can check out some of the other things that I do. I've got Pilot Program, a podcast that I do with a good friend of our show, Pierce Corshane. Pierce and I watched the first episodes of every television show ever made, and our newest episode is on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which we had a great time recording. And after doing the recording, I've been watching a lot of the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. It's just easy to watch. So looking forward to talking more with Pierce about that to start our next episode. But our next episode is going to be a pretty special one. It's episode 50, and we do animes on the 10s. So we're gonna do the original Dragon Ball, and that'll be fun too. That's a show. I mean, obviously Dragon Ball Z is a huge one and something I've seen before, but I've not actually watched much of the original Dragon Ball. So that'll be kind of cool. And I don't think Pierce has watched it all either, so that'll be new to both of us. And then if you care about Magic the Gathering, I do have another YouTube channel called Common Knowledge MTG, where I am looking at common Magic the Gathering cards and talking about the Pauper format, which is a format where you can only play with common cards. It's my favorite way to play Magic, and we just got a new set, or are getting a new set coming out in like a couple of days, and that's the new Marvel superhero set. Not particularly excited about Universes Beyond cards in Magic the Gathering, but there are some pretty cool things that are in that set for Pauper. Specifically, there's a new 2-card combo that everybody's going crazy about, and whether it needs to be banned. I think it should be banned, but whatever. But that I have a channel that's dedicated to all that stuff. So if you like talking about that or thinking about that, that's a good channel to go check out as well. Common Knowledge MTG. But that's me.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you for riffing and talking through this. I enjoyed just kind of letting my hair down with you tonight and talking through this thing. It's a very cool
sure
device.
We'll have a ton of other check-ins.
Yeah, dude. Like I would talk about. I would start a fucking podcast just on this topic. I love what's going on with it so much. I'm having a great time with it, and we'll certainly find ways to keep it top of mind here.
I mean, it's been dominating my gaming habits these days, mostly just because of Life of Saros. But as soon as I finish that, I have a feeling I'll be loading up, whether it's another ROM hack or another older game there. So I know it'll be a fixture for us when we do our What You've Been Playing segments, and I'm sure we'll also find some other fun things to potentially do with it as we keep recording episodes of Casual Hour.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you, and we will talk to you all next week.